welcome to yet another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. On tonight's episode, we will be breaking down episode 38 of the Orange Island arc. That is, I believe, number 95 overall, if you're keeping track at home. And this episode is entitled Naval Maneuvers. So, to join me in breaking down this test of endurance, this is my buddy who's training for a Rocky montage, Professor Chris G. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So I like my nickname, and kind of curious as to the Rocky montage thing, but we can go over that in just a second. But it's not just me this week, bro.
No, it's not. We are fortunate enough to be joined by one half of the Pokemon Adventures podcast. We are very gracious to be joined by Sergio. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Hello. I'm doing good, doing really great, and happy to be here.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic. And yeah, we I reached out to you via Twitter because I'm a fan of your show. I actually recently just started doing some manga reads, one man style, on our show as well. And you guys are obviously way further than what I am. But would you like to go over what your podcast is about and where people can find you?
Yeah, of course. So like you guys said, we go over the Pokemon Adventures manga, and we're going chapter by chapter. And if I have to be honest, you guys' podcast was actually my main inspiration for starting our own podcast. And pretty much in a similar format, I'm like, you guys going episode by episode. And I remember listening to you guys on my drive to work, on my drive back home. And then, I started looking for other podcasts, Pokemon related, just to see. And I told myself, like, there's gotta be a podcast out there that goes over the manga. I'm like, let me look for some. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, hold up. No one's covering the podcast yet. And I believe I seen maybe a few on YouTube. They kind of went over it as a general, just kind of went over the whole arc. And I'm like, wait, hold up. There's like so much to each of these chapters. I'm like, let me see if I can start something up. And it's crazy, but not a lot of people know that Pokemon in general has a manga. And
no, they don't.
Yeah, they really don't. And it's crazy because this manga has literally been around just as long as the anime has.
Yeah.
And it really goes to show you that advertisement is everything. And
absolutely. And I remember as a kid, I had like the original, because I guess they used to come out like weekly. So I had the like original when it was just like kind of like a magazine type comic book, like it was just paper style. And I had the originals, and I remember reading these, but my father did not want to go and buy these every single week when they were coming out. We had a comic book store down the road, because not only was I getting a few of those, but I was also this was back when the Pokemon trading card game had come out as well. And any cards that I couldn't get via the packs, you could go to your local comic book store and they would have a binder, a big old binder.
Wow.
And you can go and just purchase the individual cards there, even though they were really overpriced. And I see now why my father didn't want to be buying these all the time. But
yeah, of course.
But I am fortunate enough, and I was just messaging. I'm in a group chat with all my close friends, and as of today, I have completely completed my Pokemon Adventures manga. Like, I have every single book.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. I'm assuming you're buying like the big book, like I believe it's like an omnibus, or the individual volumes.
For the most part, all outside of the black and white and black and white 2, I went out and I bought the box sets. So
Gotcha.
so each one has a box set, but then when it came down to Black and White and Black and White 2, they don't have the box sets, or they for Black and White it's like divided up into 3 different box sets, and I guess they're out of print now. So you have to kind of
Oh,
search. So what I ended up doing, and it kind of frustrates me, and Doug kind of knows how kind of anal I am about like keeping things like looking like pretty nice. So I might
yeah, yeah.
so I might get different copies later on, but I went on Amazon and I went on a few different other websites like Barnes and Noble, and I had to buy the black and whites individually. So when they
Uh,
started coming in the mail, I started finding out that some of the ones that people were selling me were some that were from the library that has the library seal. Like I have one from San Diego, I got one from Florida, and you have to like peel off the like plastic from the front, which it doesn't ruin the book, but
yeah, yeah.
you have the name of the library written on the top of each one of those books, and I'm just like, man, I really wish that these were just like the rest of my box sets.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Doug.
Not as easy to display those ones.
Yep.
No, not really. But I did find a website though that I can get a customized box, and I can make it to where the books will fit into it perfectly. So I think I might do that because it's like $25, and I'm not going to give that website a shout out yet until I know their quality is pretty good, and then I might give them a shout out. But
Yeah.
but I might do that and just put the books in there and just have them like sideways, because when I'm reading here on the show, I have digital copies as well. So I read via the digital copy instead of creasing my books, because I'm very particular
Yeah.
about creasing them.
That's definitely the benefit of the digital medium.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm glad that we inspired you to doing your Pokemon podcast, and it's really nice to have you on today's show. And what an episode to have you on. So,
Yeah, this is actually a real good one. I'm glad it was a gym battle one.
yes,
Well, not a battle, but at least gym
a
related.
gym badge. Yes.
Jim centric, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, but outside of that, I think we're pretty much good. Doug, do you have anything that you want to go over or say, or anything before we jump on into this week's episode?
No, it's like I say, it's always exciting to bring new people on and kind of see what they can bring to the proceedings, and it'll be interesting to kind of get your take on an episode of the show as opposed to a chapter of the manga.
This is true.
So, and right before we do this, how familiar are you with the actual like TV shows? Like, did you watch all of these episodes when they were like first airing?
Oh yeah, I've watched them originally. I've watched like this specific one. I think I've watched this episode at least a good 5 times, even before in the past.
Okay.
I think I've watched probably all the way up to what is it, X and Y. I have not seen much of the Sun and Moon anime, and I'm currently up to date with a lot of the Journeys ones.
Yes, and I'm up to date as well. I really debated, because I knew this past Saturday was only part 1 of the Leon battle, and I was like, okay, I can't wait. I'm just going to turn it on and watch it. And then at the end of the episode, I was like, I should have just waited. I should have just waited, because they do some hard cliffhangers at the end of these Japanese episodes.
Yeah. For sure, but you know what? In the age of Netflix, where they spoil us constantly with full episodes in a season, it's okay every now and then to be left on a cliffhanger, because it literally brings back the old school, back in the 90s type of thing, how we all used to do it, like waiting week by week for an episode.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
But I do have to say, and I know, and I'm gonna guess that it was frustrating for you too. Those episodes that they were running that was recapping what we had just originally seen. Oh my goodness.
Those are horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's like, really, like, you guys got so much on the line right now, and you guys want to do these recap episodes. But I think I find more the filler episodes even more frustrating.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we know all about filler episodes.
Oh yeah, exactly. Especially with season 1 and 2, it's full of them.
Oh, full of them. And I was about to flip my lid when I turned on this week's episode of Journeys, and they started off with going on his Mew quest, and I was like, wait a minute, no. I was like, this is supposed to be Ash's battle. I was like, what are we doing here?
And you know what? It's to be expected, because I think they confirmed that supposedly Ash versus Leon is gonna be like 4 episodes long, and knowing Pokemon's track record, they're gonna throw in a few completely unnecessary scenes every now and then. I already know they are.
Yeah, and I'm really, really hoping that within these 4 parts that they don't, in the middle, like after part 2, they go in and they give Go his whole episode as to what's going on with him during Ash's battle. Oh man, I know it's coming. I know it's coming, and I'm gonna bang my head on the table like, no. But all right,
it's like, look, give Go his own episode. Like, keep it separate from Ash's.
I think he might be taking over the series. That's my guess. That's
that's what they looks like they've been hinting at, because I don't really see him capturing Mew at the end of this episode, but who knows? But it's looking like that's how it might Journeys might end up ending with.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm ready, and I'm ready for Ash to have his happy ending, and I really hope they don't pull something over us at the very end of this, but I guess we will wait and see.
Yeah, just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
Doug will either be getting a happy text or a very, very angry text message at the end of that 4th part.
In the what, like at 3 a.m? Is that what around the time that it airs with you guys as well? The sub.
I don't know what time it actually airs out here. I normally end up watching it around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Central Standard Time. So,
I was going to say, if you text me at 3 a.m, you and I are going to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Chris is going to end up texting you or calling you at 3 a.m. like, God damn it.
For real. But no, I watch it around that time because my son, he doesn't like watching the Japanese with the subtitles, but he's kind of gotten into the actual battles that they're having. So so that's turned into our Saturday morning thing, as long as we don't have anything else going on. So that's our thing now. All right, let's see. So as you stated, Doug, today's episode is Naval Maneuvers, and translated from Japanese, it's Naval Gym Snowy Mountain Battle, which is very deceiving because there is
very confusing.
There is no physical Pokemon battle in this episode. So this episode aired in Japan April 22nd, 1999, and here in the States, it aired March 11th, 2000. So I do have the episode up right here. Is everybody ready to start going over?
Yes.
Ready here.
All right. So I will start this up right here. And we start this week's episode like we start every Orange Islands episode. We're out in the middle of the ocean on Lapras's back. And our heroes are traveling, and Tracy's like, oh, look at that mountain. And Togepi's like, oh, Togi. And Misty goes, man, I wonder what kind of gym or gym badge that you're going to get on this island. And this is when Tracy is telling Ash that it's called the Sea Ruby badge and that we are getting close to the island, the Navel Island. And he's like, oh, I'm ready to get this Sea Ruby badge. And he's like, let's go and get to that item or get to that island and get that gym badge. And we go straight into the title sequence. They're not playing any games this week because we know that this is a gym-filled episode. And they're swimming in. And as they're swimming in, they finally land. We don't even get the sequence of Ash returning Lapras. Like they know they only have 20 minutes and they're going straight on into this episode. And as they're walking up, they see that the island looks kind of deserted. And that even Tracy even notices. He's like, Ash is like, I don't see any gym around here. And they're kind of looking around. And then they see, they had to make him a good-looking dude. They see this muscular dude in short shorts and in what looks like a Geodude Hawaiian red shirt, sailing on a boat with his radio right behind him, listening to some music. And he's coming up to the island because it looks like he saw our heroes pulling up to the island. And knowing what happens in this episode, I don't think anyone's really even living on this island, at least because I didn't see anybody else on this island during this episode. But
yeah, it does look pretty abandoned.
I was going to say it doesn't look lived in.
No. So Sergio, I'm gonna pass this part over to you if you want to go over the next part of the scene with this mysterious man jumping off of his boat and greeting our heroes.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, this guy who we don't know his name yet jumps off, meets the crew, and of course, Ash, Tracy, and Misty. They all introduce themselves to him, and this the guy, he tells them, well, my name is Danny, but when he hears Misty's name, that's when he's like, oh, that's beautiful. That beautiful name suits you. And then, of course, we get Ash and Tracy. They're like, you mean her? And then that's when even Misty's like dumbfounded. He goes over to her, and then pretty sure at this point it's been established that Misty's what, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah, 10 years old. So I thought this was, and I wanted to bring it up, and I was hoping you would catch this. I thought this was really creepy.
Yes, exactly. Because Danny looks like he's gotta be somewhere in his 20s
at least. And he looks right over at Misty, and Misty's like, beautiful as me. And he's like, because Danny boy over here, he's like, yeah, I've seen a lot of people come to this island, but nobody as beautiful as you. And Misty is just all struck and back, and Tracy and Ash are just looking on because I can only imagine what this looks like in person. And they're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, everyone's dumbfounded, including Pikachu and Togepi.
So, Doug, you wanna go on to the next part of this episode?
Yeah, Tracy being dumbfounded is a little confusing to me because we know he's got the hots for like Nurse Joy in particular. So I mean, obviously, I understand. They've been traveling together long enough to the point where Misty is very much kind of like a sister, and like obviously Tracy. I mean, what's the expression about not shitting where you eat or whatever the fuck?
Yes.
But yeah, so I get that, but it was a little kind of weird for Tracy, who we've seen in recent episodes just go absolutely gaga over Nurse Joy, especially the tan Nurse Joy from a couple episodes ago.
His little drawing. Oh, I'm just doing this for research purposes.
Oh, yeah, he likes to draw them.
So we pan out from the greetings on the beach through a set of binoculars. Well, it looks like binoculars, but it ends up being a periscope in the Magikarp submarine. And we see Team Rocket is pedaling ahead, and they said, we've had some setbacks, but, they're like, you remember the old saying, a twerp and his Pikachu are soon parted. And
we're going to win this time.
And James is like, it better happen soon because I'm sick of being in this damn submarine. and Meowth is like, are you sure we're going to win this time? And they're like, yeah. And then we go back and Danny is leading everybody.
Yes. I want to point out on
he changed clothes. Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Yes, he did.
Motherfucker put on a sweater vest.
Yeah, he completely changed his gear. We didn't see that, but he did. But as they're walking, so I'm going to go over some of the dialogue in just a second. But as they're walking, Pikachu is just on this like border, like this wall made out of rocks. And Pikachu's just running up, trying to keep up with him. And at one point, Pikachu stands up and loses its balance and falls flat on its butt. And then jumps right back up and is like, no, I got this. And then falls right back up. It seems like that might have been a frame that they were kind of like reusing, like one of those rewind frames, because as soon as Pikachu sits back up and right before it would fall, they immediately cut from that part of the scene. But all right, so as our heroes are up here and they're talking, let's see. Misty's like, she's like, oh, it looks like you've got everything that you need to be on this island. Misty's like, you got a big old backpack. It looks like you're totally prepared for surprises life has in store. The guy is like, he's like, yeah, I always try to prepare for the future. And Misty, just to chop Ash down,
as usual, just ready for it.
She's like, that's such a mature old way of looking at things. And she's like, too bad certain other Pokemon trainers aren't smart enough to think ahead. And Ash immediately is like, he's like, some trainers are just good enough to come out on top without having to think of any situations. And Misty, she's like, good enough to come out on top in any situation, especially if they're with trainers who know what they're doing. And Ash is like, oh, yeah. And Missy's like, yeah. And immediately Danny Boy over here notices them bickering and fighting over each other and calls Misty out and basically says, you only fight with the ones you love. Sergio, you wanna go on this next part?
Yeah. So this is definitely one of those episodes where they want to emphasize that Misty and Ash got a thing for each other. But it's so funny though, because in any time, in any episode or even movies, they always deny it. They're constantly denying. And I think we're even going to see a little bit up ahead where Ash experiences some jealousy over here. But as the scene goes on, Misty's like trying to tell Danny, like, no, you got it all wrong. They're over here like blushing, and it says, I'll never get involved with a little kid like him. Once again, another dig at Ash. I only like the mature intellectual type.
Yeah.
And Ash is like, you know what? She's the kid, not me. And then this is where now they're kind of questioning who is this guy anyways? And then I think, Tracy's like, who knows? I guess he's another trainer. He must be here to challenge the naval gym leader as well.
And Ash immediately just gets all hot-headed at that point. He's like, "Ooh, I'll show him who wins this badge first."
Yeah.
And we immediately jump from that scene straight over to the naval gym doors. So like I said, they're not playing at all in this episode. So we've already been introduced to Danny. We've already been have the bickering between Ash and Misty. Danny Boy, we've established, might be a trainer on this island, and we're only 4 minutes in, and that's including the theme song. So, Doug, you want to go over the start of the gym doors right here?
The way old Danny's been going, he might be something else, but that's not for me to get into. Yeah, so we're at the big set of gym doors, and we see the sign says Naval Gym and a Pokeball on the door, and I clocked this as well. The way they're standing, Ash is up front, and Danny is way in the not way in the back. There's only 4 of them, but he's the furthest back.
Yes,
and this is obviously playing on Ash being, gung ho and see Jim get badge, let's fucking go kind of thing. And he's the one that pushes the door, well, him and Tracy, but he's the one that initiates. And
Danny didn't even help at all. He just walks right on in. Oh, thank you.
No, he's like, this kid must have it. And Ash is like, it looks like we need to take that little cable car. And Pikachu's and then at that, Pikachu's ears kind of perk up, and he's like pulling on Ash's pant leg, like, look over yonder. And there's a sign off in the distance that we can't currently read. It just looks like chicken scratch. And he's like, maybe that sign has instructions.
Yep, and and this is where things get funny. Tracy goes over and he reads the sign, and it's like trainers who are looking to battle. I'm going to paraphrase this because I'm not going to read it word for word, but trainers who are looking to gain a gym badge needs to climb the hill by foot. And anyone that is with that trainer that doesn't want to climb it by foot can use the cable cart to take its way up as an easy way all the way up the mountain. And Ash is like, what? I got to climb that all by myself? And it's also at this point that Tracy's like, yeah, and you can't use your Pokemon. Your Pokemon cannot help you get up this hill. And he's like, what? And Danny Boy over here, he's full blown ready. He's like, all right, well, I guess it's time to start climbing this mountain. And Ash isn't gonna let little Danny Boy show him up. And we get a close up of Danny, like right on his face, like Danny's just looking. So you kind of get the notion that he might be the gym leader here, and he's scoping out Ash. And Sergio, you want to go after the next thing once they start climbing this big old hill?
Yeah, of course. So they start climbing the huge mountain. Now, I do have a bit of a, how do I say this, observation here, or a bit of a worry. They're over here climbing, basically mountain climbing, literally mountain climbing, no type of harness or anything. And they obviously can't use their Pokemon or they'll get disqualified.
Yes.
I'm over here like, imagine if any one of these guys falls and they're not allowed, knowing somebody as dedicated as Ash would have probably fallen without the use of his Pokemon. He could have actually gotten hurt or died.
Well, think about Ash, just in the grand scheme of the show, up to this point. How many times has he used Bulbasaur as a bridge? How many times has he used Charmander as a lighter? How many times?
And it's funny that you say both of those Pokemon, because both of those Pokemon are going to come into play, Doug.
Right.
It's so funny that you mentioned them. But yeah, he uses them as a crutch for everything. Oh, Charmander, this cave is dark. Let's use your tail, which is why Charizard doesn't want to obey you now, because all you did was basically use him for light. And you almost had him die on a damn mountain.
I'm actually surprised we never actually saw Ash tell his Charmander or his Charizard ever to heat up his food at this point.
And he probably did that off screen, which is why Charizard's like, I ain't eating your food. I ain't doing anything. I'm just going to go fly and sleep on this rock.
yeah, exactly.
But so Ash is climbing this hill, and Danny Boy is climbing all the way up this hill, and he's not having a worry in the world. He does this in his sleep, and Ash is looking back behind him, and Danny's like, "Hey, is everything okay, Ash?" And Ash, of course, is not going to let Danny show him up. He's like, "Yeah, everything's just great." so Pikachu's climbing because Pikachu's a mouse and just getting all the way up this hill. But it's at this point Ash gets to one part of the hill, and Tracy and Misty are using the cable cart, and they're climbing up, and Ash looks over to the side, and Tracy and Misty are like, "Hi, Ash, we'll see you all the way at the top."
No. I want to make a special notice that Misty is sure to say hi to Danny as well.
Exactly.
Hi,
Which
Danny.
Immediately gets on Ash's nerves.
And he's like, ugh.
And I'll say it. I mean, we're only like 6.5 minutes into the episode, basically 5 minutes. Danny is bad vibes.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I can't trust anybody that changes into a sweater vest on the beach. I just can't. I mean, there's I don't know. He's bad vibes. I'm not going to go any further than to say he's just bad vibes.
I do wonder if Danny does what he did with Ash with all the trainers that show up on the island. Like, does he become immediately their competitor as the gym leader?
I think so, Danny. So
no, I said ooh. That's a good point.
Oh, I thought you said who.
No.
Yeah, I think he does, which in a way it's kind of unfair because of the type of stuff that he is going to have Ash do in this episode. But
yeah,
and so it's kind of a disadvantage. But I mean, at the same time, I guess if you beat him, you really have earned that gym badge. So I guess in a way, I mean, the good outweighs the bad. But in the PC world that we live in these days, I cannot see this episode airing with how friendly Danny is towards Misty, like
for sure
on these episodes. And I'm sure, I mean, yes, on Pokemon.com. And it's just on that website because I'm sure they don't get too much traffic watching these old episodes, but still, like, it's just creepy how nice he is.
But you know what? That's shame on the animators for making 10-year-olds look a lot older.
For real, I didn't know that. I mean, I remember Ash being 10 at the very beginning. But
yeah.
to keep him 10 and to watch Pokemon Journeys and they still referenced Ash as a 10-year-old, like, this is a long year.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So, but all right. So Danny does reference down towards Ash, and he's like, "Hey, please be or no, Misty's like, "Please be careful, Danny." And Ash is like, "What's she so worried about him for?" So yeah, showing a little bit of jealousy, and he lets the jealousy kind of get the best of him. And I'm pissed off at Danny for this part because we see how high up they are, but Ash loses his grip and he falls. And he literally falls back on his back. Boom. And then he's getting ready to use Bulbasaur to kind of save him from falling to his death. He's like, a Bulbasaur, Vine. And then Danny's like, Ash, don't. You'll be disqualified. I was like, really, dude?
Like, are there not extenuating circumstances? Like, I mean, honestly, like, because I rewatched The Fall.
Yes.
He should be unconscious.
Exactly.
He's lucky he was able to grab that cliff. I mean, I guess Team Rocket has taught Ash one thing, and that's to not fully fall to your death, but come on.
Honestly, at this point, a lot of the things that I've seen Ash himself do, I'm convinced Ash is a Pokemon himself.
I
wouldn't even doubt it.
Oh my God, he's just not a normal human at this point.
So, all right, Doug, I'm going to hand this next part over to you. So right after Danny says, you will be disqualified if you use this Bulbasaur, which again is kind of BS. But what happens after here, Doug?
So Ash has a moment and he's like, he's got a good point and I've come this far. And so he just grits his teeth and he's climbing up and Pikachu's kind of giving him, as much as encouragement as he can. And, Ash kind of sees that and he's kind of comforted, I guess. And then we have a close-up shot of old Danny and you can kind of see that the relationship between Ash and Pikachu is kind of registering with him. It's like, oh, maybe it's not all, transactional or, just battle and, train and whatever. And then we fade out and we fade back and we see Ash is sitting on the ground, and he's had it. He's at his limit. He says, "This is bullshit. This is for a piece of coral." And I just and Danny's up here, and he's like, "Boy, the air is clean and the view is great, and Pikachu is even getting on the act." He's like, "Yeah, this is some good shit." And because again, Pikachu's a mouse, so he's used to being able to traverse on all fours and what have you, and then
out of nowhere, we can't have an episode without having problems with Team Rocket. Sergio, I'm going to pass this over to you on the suction cup part.
Yes, so immediately out of nowhere, a suction cup comes out from the sky. Of course, sticks to Pikachu and drags him away. And we get the usual Team Rocket model. And from what it seems here, Jesse's cooking up some fish on their Meowth air balloon while they're saying their usual spiel. And yeah, both of them seem to be cooking up in the air. At this point, trying to catch Pikachu is just second nature to them. And then, so yeah, as they're continuing their model, we got Meowth holding a fishing rod, Jesse standing up, holding up the fish, and actually, they didn't actually succeed in pulling in Pikachu because Ash is actually holding on to him as much as he could. He's telling them, "Hey, let go." Danny jumps in. He takes the suction cup out of Pikachu's back, sends it right over to Meowth. And then, Ash and Pikachu, Pikachu's back in Ash's hands. So obviously, I don't think Team Rocket was meant to be too much in this episode. It was just more out of okay, let's just throw him in there, see what we can get. And then, of course, they're like, "Hey, you know what? You're not getting off that easy." And then James is like, "Yeah, you didn't even let us finish our motto." And then now we got Meow. He's like, "You know what? I'll show you, wise guy." So obviously we got Danny here, who is not much of a pushover himself, but he also doesn't take Team Rocket too seriously because Meow throws back the suction cup and Danny immediately blocks it with a huge boulder.
Where the hell did he get this damn boulder?
Right? Exactly. Just out of nowhere, just takes out the boulder and sends it right back at Team Rocket.
Trying to be all macho for Misty. He's like, maybe Misty's watching. I'm going to pick up this big old boulder and just send it all back over to Team Rocket.
Yeah.
He's still bad vibes, man. He's just, I can't. It's the sweater vest. It's not even so much the hitting on Misty. I mean, that's obviously part of it, and I think that's a lot of that is colored by the fact that we're reviewing a TV show from 2000 and 2022, and I mean, we know about, whatever,
yes,
like you said, Chris, earlier, the current climate. But it's just the sweater vest. I can't. He's got like frat bro energy, and that's never good.
No. And Danny at this point, he just laughs at Team Rocket. He's like, we don't need troublemakers like that here on Navel. He's like, ready to finish climbing. So they're not even done yet. So they were just taking a break. And Ash is like, yeah, I forgot about that. Sure. So we go back to Team Rocket, and Team Rocket is just flying, and they're going to the top of the mountain, and we see a whole bunch of snow at the top of the mountain. And as they're flying over, there's a bunch of geysers on the top of the mountain that are just shooting up. And James is like, oh no. He's like, what's that? And Meowth is like, those are geysers. He's like, you don't think those things are going to hit us, do you? And as soon as it's like clockwork, as soon as they say that, a geyser shoots from the mountain, hits the balloon, and Team Rocket is blasting off again. And they are shot into the heavens. So from here, Doug, I'm going to hand it on over to you for them being on top of the mountain where the snow is starting to come down.
So we're trudging towards the peak, and we see Ash was clearly ill prepared for a trek up a snowy mountain, and he's shivering because he's got a short sleeve shirt and jeans and sneakers. And I don't know how. Well, Danny, I mean, obviously I know how because this is his bit.
Yes,
he should still be shivering a little bit because it's a sweater vest. It's not a sweater.
He's used to this. He lives up here.
Well, that's true. But he should at least shiver so as not to give away his game. But and then we see, Pikachu's kind of Pikachu reaches his limit and just gives up and just lays down. And then Ash runs over and goes into full-on hero Ash Ketchum mode. Takes off his jacket, doesn't even flinch, and wraps Pikachu in it like he's done multiple handfuls of times at this point, including the first episode, I believe.
Yes.
Once again, we get another example of as much of a jerk as Ash can be. He's extremely selfless when it comes to his Pokemon. And, he's like, I'll hold you close for warmth, and that way we can both be warm. And Ash kind of gets this little boost of heroism himself, which is a little selfless, or selfish, I should say. And then he goes trudging by Danny. He's like, no mountain's going to beat us, right, Pikachu? And Pikachu's like, you can say whatever you want. I'm wrapped in a nice coat. And Danny's kind of got this look on his face like, son of a bitch. And well, not really. He's like, how? It's kind of more of like a how about that shit kind of look. And Ash is just, I mean, he's not even breaking stride now. He can see the peak, and we fade out and we see Misty and Tracy are standing beside a like a cabin. And
wrapped in a blanket.
And this is irresponsible, by the way, because old Togepi's, we're still led to believe that Togepi's an infant, and Togepi's just been basically exposed to the elements, unless it was in the I mean, because it was in the cable car, but I mean, they're standing out there. They could be in the cabin, but they're just standing out there going, "Oh boy, I hope they show up soon. Otherwise, we're not going to have an episode."
Misty has Togepi wrapped in the blanket, so I'm guessing they were probably inside of that cabin. They got the blankets and then they waited, and as soon as they started seeing Ash and Danny walking up, they walked outside and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" But this is where it gets a little funny, though.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
So, so Misty, full blown sees Danny and Ash, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you made it!" And Ash is like, "Yeah, we sure did." And she runs right past Ash, and Ash is like, "What am I, chopped liver?" And he just does the anime fall, and she
Gets
runs
knocked over, yeah.
and runs right over to Danny. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm glad you made it." And Ash, we get a close up of Ash, and Ash is like, what about me?" And Pikachu kind of gives him the pat on the shoulder. He's like, "You did a good job, Ash. Don't worry, I was with you. You did a really good job."
Misty even offers the blanket to Danny.
Yeah. That's not great. That's yeah.
Oh man.
But Danny walks over to Ash and he's like, "That was quite a test, Ash. Congratulations. You passed." And Ash is like, "Huh?" He's like, "I passed." And Misty's like, "I knew it." And Tracy's like, "I figured it out when we got to the top and nobody else was here." Ash is still oblivious. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "What do you know, Misty?" And she's like, "Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Danny's not here to win a gym badge. He's the gym leader. Climbing that mountain was just a test for you." And Tracy's like, "Yeah, just to weed out the little wimps." And Ash is like, "Huh?" And he's like, "True. I'm the Navel Island gym leader. Dun, dun, dun." And he's like, "And I'm a member of the Orange Crew." Sergio, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. And so this is where he continues, telling Ash, he's like, "I hope you're ready for our big match, Ash." And Ash is still ain't shocked. Ash is just late here because he obviously is the last one to find out, considering Tracy and Misty figure it out before he did. Even Pikachu is like, "Oh man, what's coming up next?" And then we get the who's that Pokemon, which it's completely irrelevant to the episode.
And the next one.
This is me off.
Execute is our who's that Pokemon this week, and Execute doesn't make an appearance this week, doesn't make an appearance next week. It's just a random who's that Pokemon, which that should have been the who's that Pokemon like 10 or 15 episodes ago when they had a full-blown Execute episode.
Yeah. It's so random. I think in the later episode they just did a spin the bottle on the Pokemon, and whatever it lands on, that's what they chose.
Yeah, for real. Like, jeez Louise. But all right, Sergio, you want to continue after the who's that Pokemon?
Yes, this is where Danny is explaining to Ash what's coming up next. So I'm pretty sure Ash was expecting a battle. And this is actually where Danny tells Ash, so we're going to have, what did he call them? Obstacle tests. And he tells them that he can if he can win 2 out of 3. And if you can win 2 out of 3, you can win the Sea Ruby badge. And that's where he shows them little shell-looking badge, and he tells them Ash is pretty much understanding. And
something you get out of an airport as you're leaving the island.
Yeah, like a little souvenir right before you leave. And this is where he explains the first test. He's like, "First, we'll see who can freeze hot water the fastest." And this is where Team Rocket was at first, but they got blasted off, and that's where the geysers are coming up out of the ground. And they're like, Ash is just shocked. He's looking up in the air, and Misty is like, "Wow, a geyser. Hey, that means they're gonna have to start with the ice attacks." That's what Tracy says. So Tracy, we see him take out his first Pokemon, which is a Nidoqueen. And that's where Ash is like, oh, ice attacks. Oh, yeah, Danny.
No, you're good.
And this is where Ash chooses Lapras. I want to know what would have happened if Ash didn't have an Ice-type Pokemon with him.
He would have been disqualified, which again, completely.
I mean, he could. I was gonna say he could use Squirtle and hope for the best, but I don't even think. I think even a water
doesn't know any ice attacks yet. At least I haven't seen in the original anime any ice attacks from Squirtle.
Oh, that's true. No. I guess it doesn't. It doesn't seem cold enough that Squirtle could use like water gun and just hope it freezes. But even if it did, the hot water of the geyser would. Well, so he'd be fucked, is what he'd be. He would have done all that climbing for nothing.
And I'm just now putting two and two together. So that climbing of the mountain, yes, it was part of the test, but he's not counting it as part of the 3 obstacles because
could have been.
It could have been, but. Not to ruin everything, but I mean, we have this, and then we have what he's going to do next with his next Pokemon, and then the race. So, I mean, the climbing is not even a part of the. Okay, so that's what confused me because I put this along with what they're getting ready to do next as one obstacle, and I'm like, okay, so he won all 3.
Think about it though, and I'm kind of doing this like as we're sitting here reviewing the episode. That's a good point until you think about it, because if a trainer can't make the climb, they can't do, like, even if the climb was one of the tasks, if a trainer can't make the climb, it's over.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a little trial.
So it could be counted as maybe a half. If somebody wanted to get, like, say somebody lost out by an inch on the race or something, they say, yeah, but I climbed my ass up here. That damn shell.
Should have been on the sign, do not climb this if you do not have an ice Pokemon.
In today's world, it would be a PDF you would get emailed to you. You would get the rules.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out, though, that I'm pretty sure when it came to the Pokemon, I think the requirement was probably only to have a Pokemon that had at least an ice attack, because Nidoqueen isn't even an ice type Pokemon. It just knows an ice attack.
Yeah.
This is probably a dumb question. Is Ice Beam a TM? Oh, right.
Ice Beam.
In a lot of the games, it is.
I believe so. I believe it is a technical move that you can teach your Pokemon, but I'm not sure. Does Lapras learn Ice Beam on its own? Because I know Jinx does.
No, well, because remember, Lapras used Ice Beam in the. And I'm using quotes, and you can't see it because it's a podcast. The gym battle with Sissy, remember?
Yes. So, I'm not.
Yeah. So I'm sure Lapras can learn it on its own. I'm not 100%. I can't remember using a Lapras in a while, but considering that it's an type, I'm pretty sure it can learn it on its own.
But I wasn't really worried about Lapras, because Lapras at least is a swimmer. I'm more concerned about Nidoqueen.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. But I'm pretty sure, at least in the earlier games, I know that Ice Beam was a TM for a long time.
Right.
Yes. So it's at this point in the anime that Ash sends out his Lapras, since Danny sent out his Nidoqueen, and they're both looking at the geysers, and both Ash and Danny call out Ice Beam attack, and Nidoqueen and Lapras freeze the water freeze the geysers as it's shooting up, and they both are are freezing it and freezing it and freezing it. And Lapras is a little behind Nidoqueen, and Ash is like, hang in there. And Danny's like, full power, Nidoqueen. So Nidoqueen wasn't even going full blast with this. And just freezes the whole geyser to the top. And Lapras finishes second at this point, but does end up freezing the geyser all the way up to the top. And they're both done. And it looks like we go straight from that. They cut the ice down, and they have placed the big blocks of ice from the geysers right next to each other. And this is where we get the next set of rules. Doug, you want to go into the next part of the rules?
So basically, the next part of the challenge is to carve your respective chunk of ice into a sled, and you can only use 3 Pokemon per competitor. So, as the gym leader, it's Danny's job to ask Ash which Pokemon he's going to use. Ash says, I'm going to use Pikachu, I'm going to use my Bulbasaur, I'm going to use Charizard. And Charizard's sitting there like, I do not like being in that Pokeball. And then Misty and Tracy together are like, not Charizard.
And Ash is like, that's right, Charizard.
Almost like he knows he's in a TV show. And he's like, Charizard's got the fire that I could use to carve the ice.
And I want to know what the hell Pikachu is going to do.
Leadership. Leadership. He's gonna crack the whip. He's gonna be like, all right, you.
So it's at this point. So we go over and we look at Danny's Pokemon, and Danny's Pokemon is a Nidoqueen, a Machoke, and a Scyther. Really decisive Pokemon. So Scyther is going to slice up the ice, and Machoke and Nidoqueen, I'm guessing, are just going to pound the ice as Scyther is cutting it. And I'm really wondering what Pikachu is going to do here. So Ash is like, all right, everybody, let's go. And the geysers start shooting up from the background.
We get like a quick, fast action montage. We see Machoke is punching the ice as Nidoqueen's holding it, and then she puts it down for Scyther to go to work, and then we go over and we see Ash's crew. Ash's crew, they kind of look like the Three Stooges, because freaking Bulbasaur's pounding down with his Vine Whip, which, as much as I respect Bulbasaur, he's only a Bulbasaur. It can only do so much damage. Pikachu is trying to weld a block of ice, question mark?
Yeah, I want to know what Pikachu's doing.
and Charizard is just above all of this.
Oh, this is the star of the team here.
And he's just like, this is ridiculous. I'm cold. I'm tired. And Ash is still trying to do like rah-rah shit because he's not acknowledging that Charizard's a lost cause, which is his fault, but this isn't the episode to go into it.
Now Charizard gets his own episode in a few episodes. We'll have that.
So he's like, come on, Charizard, I can't win without you. And Charizard's like, yawn. And Misty's like, God damn it. And Tracy probably has the line of the episode, and I mean that in the worst way possible. Because Tracy goes, Ash is going to get iced out.
And Ash at this point goes over to Charizard and is like, Charizard, I need your flamethrower. And he's just tugging Charizard's tail, and Charizard's just looking up at him. And Charizard's like, get off my tail, and just flamethrowers Ash right in the face. And then Charizard just starts going berserk and is like, all right, fine, I'm going to do this one thing for you, and you're going to leave me alone. and completely starts using its
You know what?
flamethrower and carves out a perfect
Hey,
sled.
I call so much bullshit on this. It's not even funny.
Exactly.
You know what, Chris? If we ever get T-shirts made, what is our first T-shirt design going to say? It's going to say "It's a kid show," and you could say that until you're blue in the face. But this is some bullshit.
Yeah,
So-
even for kids shows standards, this one right here is bullshit.
It really is.
Yeah, Charizard lets 3 flame bursts go, and then the ice sled is just pristine and sparkling and just ready.
And Pikachu's like, "Oh my gosh!" And Bulbasaur's like, "Did he just do this?" Everybody, and we get like a close up of Danny, Tracy, and Misty, and they're all in shock. They're like, "Oh!" And Ash is like, "Yeah, we did it!" Like, what?
And then there's this really good shot, and I'm paused at 14:17, and Danny's got his hand on his head, and he's like, "This is," and then Pikachu's in the sled, and Bulbasaur's on top, and Danny's Pokemon are looking over like, "What the fuck?" And Charizard's just asleep.
Yeah, this is the biggest example of what everyone calls plot armor.
Yes. They're like, we only have a few more minutes of this episode, and we need to get this moving along. So just have Charizard listen to him for once.
I wouldn't even count this as listening, because he was basically just pissed at Ash, and Ash just happened to get out of the way.
For real.
Yeah. They're like, we're just gonna give Ash his lucky accident here.
So, all right, Sergio. Let's go to the next part of the scene after all of the boat. Well, I'm gonna call them boats. Got carved out.
Sleds.
Yes,
Sleds.
So the next part is obviously now a race down the snowy hill. And obviously this was all connected because they literally carved out the ice that they froze at the beginning. Now they got these shiny sleds, and now basically it's very simple now. Just go down. Whoever gets to the very bottom wins. And so they're at the start. They got little, the start sign. So Danny, now we see 2 different Pokemon with him now. He still has the Scyther, but now he chose his Geodude and an Electrode, all inside a sled, with Danny being at the front. And then Ash now he also did a switch. Of course, he had to switch out Charizard. So now he still has Pikachu and Bulbasaur, but now he added Squirtle.
Could you imagine if he had to stick with the 3 that built? Even Danny would be screwed too, because Nidoqueen ain't fitting in no sled.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know why, and I just want to point this out. I know why Danny swapped out his Pokemon the way that he did, because the more weight in the sled, the faster you're going to go down that hill. Now, You look at Danny's Pokemon, and you look over at Ash. Ash has a Pikachu, Squirtle, and a Bulbasaur, along with his 75-pound butt inside of this sled. This sled ain't going to go that fast. Like, what the hell?
Well, and he's kind of cheating, because he's using Bulbasaur's vines to kind of steer. Is that cheating?
No, because Scyther, we find out Scyther, while they're going down the hill as well, kind of uses its blades to kind of steer them with where they're going to end up going. At least when I was first watching, that's what I kind of saw Scyther kind of doing. Let me.
And I'm sure it was allowed too, considering that Danny let them use their Pokemon. I mean, he's got his Pokemon, so he's probably like, well, since they're out, yeah, you might as well use them.
See, and this is when I have a question that I didn't think of until just now.
All right, shoot.
So, obviously, the biggest deal in the climb up the mountain was don't use your Pokemon.
Yes,
that's fine. then you look at the tasks, to get to this point of the race. It was all involving using Pokemon.
Yes.
So why are we not allowing the trainers to use their Pokemon in the climb, but to do everything else?
Because you got to be tough, Doug.
It falls on its face before you even get out the blocks, because there's no race if the Pokemon aren't there to build the sleds. There's no ice if you don't have an ice-type Pokemon to freeze the geyser. And you're not moving if you don't have a certain amount of weight and somebody maybe in the back to steer. So, I guess you don't want trainers with like a Pidgeot or Fearow or whatever to just fly you up there.
Yeah.
Stipulate that, like no flying Pokemon, but you could use a Geodude to maybe move a boulder, or you could use a X, Y, and Z to get up the mountain, but you have to physically get up the mountain yourself. But I hate to keep going back to Ash almost falling to his death.
But he did.
He did, because he couldn't throw out Bulbasaur to catch him with his vine, but yet here's Bulbasaur steering the sled.
You're 100% correct, bro. And Bulbasaur kind of gets him in a little bit of trouble in just a second, because as they're going down the hill, Bulbasaur he can't steer properly as they're going down, and I'm guessing his vine or something ended up slipping, and as it slipped, Ash's sled just starts going around in circles. So they're just flying down the hill. Danny is having a good old time. He's like, man, it feels good to be a kid again. And as they're going down, we get another glimpse of Team Rocket, which I don't think even needs to be in this episode again. But
they really don't.
But we see they've done what they do best, and they dug a hole as they're going down, and they're about to fill it back up with a little bit of snow. Danny's going down, and he's like, it looks like I'm gonna win this battle. And then all of a sudden his sled falls into the hole. He's going down the hill. Pikachu notices that Danny has fallen off of his sled, which I call BS. Like, you're trying to win this badge. Why are you stopping for your competition at this point? Just go down and finish the damn race and then come back, because Danny's a big man. He can take care of himself.
Yeah, I don't think Danny was ever in any real danger.
Not at all.
As we were getting to the point where we were going to pause, I was going to say, well, it's all in the spirit of competition.
Yeah.
And Ash, Ash to his fault is noble, but this was just if you're Ash and you're coming upon this, it just looks like, oh, Danny caught a snowbank, or he overcorrected or whatever. And after you almost fall down the mountain, and you probably get a concussion because you landed on your back on the rocks, I would say you take a win if you can get it.
Yeah.
And like you said, Chris, come back after the fact, because like Sergio said, Danny doesn't seem to be in any immediate danger other than maybe being a little inconvenienced that he fell out of his sled. It's not like, he broke his leg in 3 places.
For real. But so it's at this point that Ash is like, oh, it was a trap, all right. And I'm Sergio, I'm going to hand this one on over to you to go over what Team Rocket is trying to do at this point.
Yes. So of course they all realize that Team Rocket is back here, and they reveal themselves. I don't think they were really trying to hide, but they're like, okay, yeah, it's us, kid. You're getting good. And this is where they're like, well, of course, he's like, he has known us for quite a while. And then that's where Danny's like, you know these three? And are they friends of yours? And then Ash does the little anime. He doesn't really fall, but he does like the anime shock. And then Ash is like, no way. And then, of course, Ash is like, come on, man. He's like, we're having a match. Get lost. Honestly, I have to point something out here. I feel like when it comes to Pokemon episodes, it should have been a rule from the very beginning that Team Rocket should not and should have never been allowed to interfere in Ash's gym battles.
For real. I mean, they're the worst when it comes to, like, you look at what they're doing now in Pokemon Journeys, and that they haven't foiled anything, and I am so appreciative. And they're just standing on the sidelines, and they're streaming to their two fans that are watching their podcast. And like, I like that Team Rocket right now. Like, let them sit on the sidelines and enjoy watching Ash and kind of cheer for him, because they want Ash to win, so that they can say that they're trying to capture the best Pokemon or the best Pikachu that has been out there. This is their like moment to say, okay, we haven't wasted 22 plus years in this anime. Ash Pikachu is the best Pikachu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It would be like if you found out at the end of Moby Dick, if you found out that, Ahab was all this, the length of the book and all this, he was really just going after a goldfish. It's like, no, he wants to be going after a fucking whale.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Doug, you want to go over this next scene?
So, they're like, oh, you tell us to get lost. How about you cave in? And they're like, well, you said the magic words, and Meowth hits a button, and just all the ground that everyone is standing on just gives way into this gigantic hole, I guess. And Ash is rubbing his head because he's like, I am sick of falling into holes. This is bullshit. And Danny's just impressed. Like, he's so smug. He's like, your friends must be pretty skilled to set a trap like this. And Ash goes, for the last time, they're not smart, they're not skilled, they're not my friends. And then a mechanical hand comes down, kind of like a claw machine, and just picks up Pikachu, just like, ho-hum, just, I'll be taking this Pikachu. And, the balloon has a big old patch in it from when the rock was thrown at it. And, they're like, thanks for Pikachu, now stay cool. And they got Pikachu in the patented shock-proof glass case. And they're like, now it's time to send or to bring Pikachu back to the boss. And this is when we see what Ash could have done if he was allowed to use Bulbasaur as he was climbing up the mountain in the first place, because he uses Bulbasaur's vines as, and I love how Danny's behind him, and I think Pikachu, and then just Geodude just floats up, just ho-hum. I didn't even have to fall with everybody.
I still want to know how Geodude defines logic, and he can just float.
Exactly, especially when he's just a rock.
Yes.
I'll tell you how.
How?
It's a kid's show.
So we go up into the balloon where Team Rocket is, and Pikachu is trying to break this glass container that it's in, and Meowth is like, turn up the juice, give it all you got, Pikachu. He's like, you're saving us on the electric bill. So we find out Pikachu is connected to a toaster and what looks like a heater. And you see a whole thing of toast just come out of the toaster. And they're like,
Actually,
thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I was going to say actually toast, but toast comes out of the. Usually it's like, you put the toast in the toaster, but anyway.
And Meowth comes up and he's like, bon appetit. We like to be energy efficient. And I can just see them using that part on like a commercial somewhere back in the 90s.
Yes.
We like to be energy efficient. And then he just gets whaled right in the face with a snowball. And so does Jesse. James is the only one that doesn't get hit by a snowball. And he's like, what's going on? He's like, we already did our motto. Let's get them. And they look down, and Ash has some snow. Well, Ash and Danny are making snowballs, and Squirtle is taking the snowballs and handing it over to Geodude, and so is Bulbasaur, and Geodude is just lofting these snowballs over at Team Rocket, just wham, 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 wham. And Team Rocket's like, what are we gonna do? And their air balloon is slowly just filling up all the way to the top in just snowballs. So they're now starting to have a snowball fight because Team Rocket is throwing down their snowballs as the snowballs are coming up, and then we see Scyther is rolling Electrode, and Danny's like, "Hey, are you guys ready?" And it's at this point something happened while they were having a snowball fight where they got a log and a big old 2x4 and they put Electrode on one end and they all jumped on the other end, and here goes Electrode flying into Team Rocket's balloon. Pikachu falls out of the balloon. Ash catches it, and Jesse's like, this is supposed to be a Pokemon battle. And then all of a sudden, Victory Bell comes out as James is about to throw out Victory Bell, and Victory Bell's sitting there eating them. Electro falls into the balloon, and it's at this point, Daddy's a little bogus for this, because, I mean, he tells Electro to use Explosion, but doesn't Explosion knock out your Pokemon?
Yeah, it does.
I was going to say, I believe it does. Because I was about to ask you the exact same question. It's like, okay, but what happens to Electrode now?
So Electrode explodes. Team Rocket goes blasting off for the final time in this episode. Thank goodness. And it's at this point that Ash is like, oh, we did it. And Electrode comes down, and Electrode is just smiling. And he's not fainted or anything. I mean, he must have some type of magical Electrode. I'm just putting that out there.
To the show's credit, he could have easily just come down and he could have been shiny and sparkly like Ash's sled. At least he's like smudged up in a few spots.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, for all things that could have happened in this episode and how Ash has gotten Pokemon gym badges in the past, I think all of that would have warranted Danny to just give Ash the gym badge at this point, because Ash didn't have to stop. Ash could have just kept going, even though he was twirling around in circles. He would have made it all the way down to the finish line, and he would have won this race. But Danny is like, we still have half the race to go. So if you're ready, I'm ready, Ash. And Sergio, go ahead and go over this next part of the scene as they're racing down.
That's actually a good point that you made. Ash got lucky that Danny decided to give him another shot. And it was probably his way of thanking him, like, okay, you know what? You saved me. You have another shot. Because technically, if Team Rocket had not interrupted, Danny would have won. Ash would have been left behind. He lost control of his sled.
Yes.
So and then Danny tells, okay, are you ready to finish this, Ash? And Ash is like, yeah, we're ready when you are. And then we'll start the second the sun comes from behind that cloud. Now we get Ash looking determined. He says, like, I have to win this race to get that badge. And then Now they're just waiting for that cloud to clear up, and then boom, that's when they both take off. And now we get a bit of a scene change to Misty and Tracy, pretty much waiting for them to come down. And that little part doesn't make sense to me, how it's all snowy at the top, but it looks like a complete summer day at the beach where Misty and Tracy are at.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then what's it called? We got the race going, and then we get a little transition from the snow to now it's just dirt, and then Danny's still kind of leading the way. And then we get and Ash says he didn't tell me the sledding would be this rocky.
And this is when we get Scyther using his blades to kind of dig into the terrain to keep the sled, I would imagine, on track. So this is what you were talking about earlier.
Yes. So, and they're just racing down, and Ash's sled ends up turning into, as it's skinning down this bumpy forest / road / dirt, just turns into a little tiny circle. And as he's coming down this hill, he passes Danny and he wins. And he flies into the water. So, and Danny walks right over to Ash and he's like, you picked the right Pokemon for this race, and you won 2 out of the 3, even though he technically won the challenge of climbing the hill, which never gets referenced again, which I think is complete BS.
Because he almost died.
Yeah. So Danny's like, I'd like to give you something. You deserve this, Ash. And he hands him a seashell with the badge that's on it. And he's like, this is the Sea Ruby badge. And he goes and hands it over. He's like, this is all yours. And Ash is like, yeah, I won. I did it. And we get the classic Ashes going up to the screen. And instead of doing the peace sign, he's showing the badge. And Pikachu is all happy. And Pikachu does the peace sign. And Ash is congratulating everybody. Tracy is like, man, that was great. Missy's like, yeah, but Danny lost. And then we flash forward to Ash leaving the island on his way to getting his next badge and waving goodbye to Danny. It is now nighttime. Misty sadly has to say goodbye to good old Danny boy, and she will never see him again because he never returns into another episode. And Ash is looking at this badge, and that is it. That's how we end this week's episode. We started it in the ocean, and we end it in the ocean. So there we go. Good episode.
Yeah, pretty good.
So I mean, and
go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I feel like, we should take a shot every time we say it, but it's like, okay, this episode doesn't seem like much, but then, we review it and we've got, 3 different points of view, and we all noticed different things, and, we all have different takes. And I mean, it helped that this episode was basically nonstop action, from island to seeing the sign to meeting old Danny, and basically, from the climb to the race to the little intermission, because Team Rocket had to show up because we can't get rid of them at 5 minutes into the episode and not see them again. Yeah, I had forgotten about them showing back up because I was sitting there. I'm like, that's an awful early time to get rid of Team Rocket.
Yeah. I mean, I could have done without Team Rocket the rest of this episode, to be honest.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
They could have filled this episode like to have Team Rocket. They showed up 3 times in this episode. Like,
I forgot about their last show up, honestly.
Yeah, like this was just Team Rocket overload. Like after they had gotten shot up by the geyser, that could have been the end, and then we could have just got this happy ending the way that we did. But
Yeah, exactly.
so, all right, Sergio. Normally I ask Doug this question first, but I'm gonna go with you first. What would you give this episode on a scale out of 5?
Honestly, I'm stuck between a 3 and a 4. I would love to give it a 4 because it advanced the story, and Ash got his next badge for the Orange League. The reason I would give it a 3 is because there was a lot of luck involved in how he got it.
A lot.
Starting, with his sled, the way Charizard just blew at it, and he happened to have a perfectly good sled, and then with the whole Team Rocket interruption. Like I said, without Team Rocket's interruption, Ash would have probably lost. Danny could have easily beaten him, but of course, whatever. That happened, and then they got a second chance, and boom, Ash managed to win. But I feel like he got very lucky. But at the very least, I'm actually happy, though, that Danny didn't just hand him the badge just for getting rid of Team Rocket. I'm like, okay, to a certain extent, he won it fair and square. Did he get very lucky? Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. So is it safe to say that you would probably say, if you're stuck in between, would you say that your take would probably be a 3.5 out of 4 stars?
Correct. 3.5, definitely my best score towards the episode.
Okay. And Doug, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Sergio basically made all my points for me, and I was sitting exactly at a 3.5.
Okay. And I'm sitting at a solid 3 myself.
Oh, boo.
I am. Because, the episode was good, and, yes, and it advances, but Team Rocket just killed it for me. Like, they were just overdone in this episode. I'm like, this was essentially from point A to point B with the theme song. It's a 22-minute episode, but you take the theme song out, the title sequence, and the ending like music jukebox that they do. This was like an 18-minute episode with 3 full-blown elaborate schemes of Team Rocket. Like that's way too much.
They even made the joke of, hey, we already said our motto, we don't got to do it again.
Yeah. so they knew they knew that they were overdoing it, but it is what it is. I'm going to give it a solid 3. And then it is now time for a Pokemon pack. I haven't done this in about a week or so.
Nice.
So this week's pack is a Sword and Shield Brilliant Stars pack. And I am going to go ahead and give out this week's code. It is MXDVMB4JGV TMX, and that is your code this week. If you got it, you're lucky. If you didn't, try again next week. But like I said, when we have guests, I like our guests to play this game. If you can get it right, Sergio, then Doug will not get a chance. But if you get it wrong, I'm going to switch it over to Doug. What energy card am I about to flip over on this booster pack?
Give him the hints you usually give me.
Okay, it's one of the OGs. So it's one of the original booster packs.
I'll go with electric.
Electric? Let's see. It is not. It is a
Damn.
Oh, I was about to say it. Doug. So it's not electric. But it is an OG.
It's an OG, so I would know it. So it's not like, psychic ice or something goofy. I'm going to say, because I think I know what you were going to say, so I'm going to cheat a little bit unless you were giving me the okie doke. I'm going to say fire.
It's fighting.
Oh, I thought it was fire too.
I heard you say.
Yeah, I stopped myself. My bad. Yes, it is a fighting energy.
Oh, that's good because it was a 50-50 shot, and I guessed wrong. That's good. That's good.
All right. So I have a fighting energy, a Claydol, a freshwater set trainer card. I have a Starmie, a Sneasel, a Clink, a Spiritomb, an Exu. How do you pronounce this? An Impidimp?
Impidimp, yeah.
Okay, and my reverse holo is a Mothim, and I have a fully hollow Garchomp. This is a pretty nice comp.
Nice.
So there we go. That is it for this week. That is the booster pack. So how'd you enjoy being on the show today, Sergio?
Oh, I loved it. Like I said, I've heard, I think I'm not fully caught up with you guys, but I think I'm way out of where you guys started with the Orange Islands. I've listened to everything prior to that.
Okay.
And honestly, you reaching out was unexpected, but I got very excited. So, and then reviewing it was very fun. Hopefully next time, if there is a next time, I get my buddy Chaz out here, and it's been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. The door is always open. So if we can mesh up and collab with all four of us, that would be great. That would be awesome.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, 100%. The door's always open. You know, we appreciate you taking a good chunk of your Monday evening and sitting down and reviewing a show with us. And luckily, we had a action-packed episode.
Yeah.
Something with a goal instead of how's the gang going to kill 20 minutes this week?
So. All right, but I would like to fully thank you. And Sergio, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell everybody how they can find you if they want to listen to your show or your social media or anything?
Most definitely. So to start off, so me and my friend Chaz, we have a podcast called the Pokemon Adventures Podcast, and we are reviewing the chapters of the manga. And my goal is pretty much just to let as many people out there know that, hey, there's a Pokemon manga and it's based on the video game characters. So if you guys want to head over and listen to us, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere where you can find a podcast to listen to. And it's pretty much just like that. The Pokemon Adventures Podcast. We have 26 episodes as of this past Sunday. This is going to come out a little bit later. But hopefully by then we're a little bit more. We're almost done with volume 2. And then I also have an Instagram. So if anybody is active on Instagram, you guys can search us as The Pokemon Story. And I post a lot of, just Pokemon related things, anime episodes. I also post a lot of the manga pictures on there. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys can reach out, subscribe as much as well, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun for you guys. It'll be awesome for you guys to check us out.
All right. And I would like to personally tell all of our audience, I listen to their show every week. It is a great podcast. They are now on my list of podcasts that I listen to every single week, and they go a lot more in depth than what I go when it goes into looking at this manga and the history, and the conversation between both hosts is just great, and it just flows. It's a really good way to kill an hour if you listen to their show, everybody.
Thank you.
The one thing I appreciated from this past episode that just came up, it was Moltres. I believe it was titled Moltres versus Super Moltres. I really enjoyed your little breakdown of Blaine in the manga versus Blaine in the games.
Yes,
I really enjoyed when you threw a picture up. I'm assuming you threw it up in Discord or however you record, and you're like, "Hey, Chaz, break this down for me. What are the differences?" And he's like, "They did this man dirty."
Yeah.
So, but we really appreciate you coming on this week. Like we said, the door is always open for you to come on and do another episode. We would love to have Chaz come on and be a part of the show as well. So maybe we can work something out in the future and have all four of us review a future episode. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Honestly, thank you guys for having me on board.
All right. So
Absolutely.
Other than that, is there anything else that either one of you want to say before we sign out today?
No, on my end, I would say this was a very productive Monday evening for sure.
Yes.
For sure. But yeah, and I'm good on my side. Like I said, once again, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Then, Sergio, go ahead and say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, and Doug, go ahead and say your goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, don't miss next week's episode because it is a doozy. And have a good night, everybody.